Welcome back to Fate's Guardians. In our last episode, we delved into the tormented visions of Elijah, whose nightmares revealed the daunting echoes of a past life and a mysterious, sinister figure. Today, we turn our focus to Nathan, who has been grappling with his own unsettling experiences. But first, let's quickly revisit the chilling events that unfolded last week. In our last episode, Elijah's intense encounters with the older version of himself and a sinister being left us with chilling revelations and more questions than answers. His journey through a landscape of fear and ancient secrets underscored the dark undertones of our tale. As Elijah wrestled with his inner demons and the enigmatic visions of an evil, cloaked figure, we glimpsed the formidable challenges that lie ahead for our guardians. Now, in Episode 4, The Shadows We Cast, it's Nathan's turn to confront his own deep-seated fears. After witnessing a troubling phenomenon and feeling the persistent gaze of an unseen watcher, Nathan finds himself on the brink of a psychological abyss. As night envelops the world around him, Nathan's sleep brings no solace. Plagued by nightmares that are both vivid and cryptic, he must decipher their meanings, a task that pushes him to the edge of sanity. Are these visions mere echoes of his anxieties, or do they indicate something far more sinister? Join us as we delve into the darkness that lurks in Nathan's mind. What secrets will his nightmares reveal about his past and their connection to the destiny that binds him to his fellow guardians? Let's find out. Disclaimer. Before we continue, please be advised that this episode contains themes of self-harm and suicidal ideation that may be distressing to some listeners. Discretion is advised. The corridors of Rose Academy were dimly lit and silent as Nathan made his way back to his dorm room. The echoes of his footsteps mingled with the rustling leaves outside, creating a symphony of solitude that accompanied him through the quiet night. The day's strange events replayed in his mind like a relentless loop. The bruises, the shadowy figure with menacing red eyes, the haunting vision of the celestial battle, and the inexplicable fear that had gripped him. It all seemed to swirl around him, a whirlwind of confusion and dread. As Nathan unlocked his door and stepped into the familiarity of his room, a wave of unease washed over him. His space, usually a sanctuary, now felt like a stage set for another unsettling episode. He closed the door and flicked on the light, casting long shadows across the room. His gaze fell on the small desk by the window, where his books and papers lay scattered, evidence of his rushed morning. His room was a stark contrast to Elijah's meticulously organized room. The walls, covered in a mix of music posters and a few tacked-up photographs of his late parents, had the chaotic energy of a mind overflowing with ideas and too little time. The main light flickered slightly, casting uneven shadows across the cluttered space. His desk was buried under layers of books, open notebooks scribbled with notes, and loose papers strewn about with a careless urgency. A laptop sat open among the mess, its screensaver flickering with images of his parents, a rare touch of order in the chaos. The bed was unmade, the sheets tangled and half off the mattress, as if he'd left them in a hurry that morning. The room's only window was half covered by a slanted blind, letting in just enough light to highlight the disarray. A stale breeze moved through, shifting the papers slightly and carrying the mixed scents of old pizza boxes and musty textbooks. Despite the disorder, this was Nathan's sanctuary, a place where his restless mind could sprawl as wildly as the mess around him. But tonight, the room felt less like a refuge and more like a reflection of the distress within him, each item a reminder of the unsettling experiences that now haunted his thoughts. He walked over to his desk and began to tidy up, methodically arranging his textbooks and notes. Each movement was an attempt to impose order on the chaos that had begun to infiltrate his thoughts.
If I can just keep things normal here, maybe everything else will go back to normal too.
But as the room came into order, Nathan's thoughts remained tumultuous. He sat down on his bed, the events of the day running through his mind. The more he thought about the figure with red eyes, the more real it seemed, and the more it frightened him.
It felt so real. I saw it. I know I did. But why didn't anyone else see it?
He leaned back, letting his head rest against the wall. His eyes closed momentarily, finally succumbing to the weight of his exhaustion. As he sat there on his tangled bedding, sleep overtook him quickly, a welcome escape from the anxieties of the day. But the relief was short-lived. Sleep was no longer a refuge but a battleground, leaving him exhausted and wary of the night's embrace. A vivid nightmare, with its twisted imagery and dark symbolism, awaited him as he fell into a deep sleep. As the clock on his desk flickered to 3 a.m., Nathan's eyes shot open, his heart still echoing the frantic rhythm of his nightmare. The haunting scene flashed in his mind. A dark tree, a noose, monstrous figures, the creepy sounds of hissing and snarling. The bizarre nightmare twisted his stomach into knots, seemingly hell-bent on dragging him into a sinister world.
Oh my God.
The room felt colder than usual, the shadows longer and more menacing. The thin line between his nightmares and reality was blurring, each realm bleeding into the other, creating a tapestry of confusion and fear. Nathan couldn't help but have this feeling that his nightmare was some kind of twisted punishment he was supposed to endure. He was the villain and hero in his own nightmare, cheered on by demons for reasons he couldn't wrap his head around. His nightmares were like a jigsaw puzzle from the darkest corner of a mind-bending game, each piece more disturbing than the last. Nathan knew he had to figure this out, to crack the code before it cracked him. Going back to sleep was no longer an option. That was just a one-way ticket back to Horrorville. So he reached for his phone, tempted to text Elijah. But he hesitated, thinking about their early morning breakfast meetup.
I'll see him in a bit. There's no point in dragging him into more of my craziness.
Tossing his phone aside, Nathan slowly sat up, raking his hands through his tousled blonde hair. He needed to unravel the mysteries of his mind before casting the shadow of his nightmares over his best friend. Little did he know, Elijah was wrestling with his own night terrors just a couple floors above, neither of them realizing that their nightmares were entwined by some invisible force. He shifted his focus to the laptop perched on his desk, silently praying the internet could shed light on the mysteries at hand. As he rose and approached it, the lights abruptly cut out, plunging the room into darkness. A sudden chill swept through, dropping the temperature sharply. Nathan shivered, his breath visible in white puffs illuminated by the moonlight streaming through the window. Then a flicker of movement caught his eye. A shadowy presence lurking in the dark corners of his room, silently watching.
Oh, hell.
He slowly turned to look in that direction. Sure enough, there stood a figure draped in impenetrable darkness, seemingly fixated on him. Nathan froze, too afraid to move, his breathing becoming increasingly shallow. He stammered, his nerves on edge.
Who are you? What do you want?
As the shadowy figure glided ominously toward him, Nathan saw a noose draped around its neck, swaying slightly with each silent step. Where its face should have been, only a deep, endless void stared back from beneath the hood. It stopped abruptly, standing alarmingly close to Nathan, covering him in its chilling presence. Frozen in place, Nathan was still unable to move. He was paralyzed by fear.
Who am I, you ask? I'm the most famous viper of them all. I am you.
The figure loomed over Nathan before suddenly vanishing. The temperature in the room went back to normal, leaving Nathan rooted to the spot. His heart racing in his chest, the chill of the encounter lingering in the air like a ghostly whisper. The sudden silence of the room felt deafening after the figure's puzzling words. I am you. What did that even mean? Was it a warning, a clue, or was he still dreaming? And all of this was just a mere figment of his overworked imagination.
Oh my God, what is going on? I'm going crazy, I have to be. What other explanation is there?
Nathan's heart still thumped wildly in his chest, echoing the relentless rhythm of his unsettled thoughts. The room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap, its walls seemingly inching closer with every passing second. The encounter with the shadowy figure had shredded the last vestiges of his peace, leaving him too rattled to stay put.
The hell with this, I can't stay here.
The idea of waiting in the suffocating silence until dawn was unbearable. He needed space, a change of scenery. anything to escape the oppressive atmosphere that now hung heavy around him. With a sense of urgency, Nathan grabbed his hoodie, pulling it over his head as he made for the door. The hallways of the dormitory were dimly lit, the usual nighttime quiet feeling more like a hushed warning than a tranquil lull. His footsteps sounded loud to his own ears as he made his way downstairs, each echo a stark reminder of his loneliness. The common room, usually a hub of late-night studying and low-key socializing, was deserted at this hour. The space felt welcoming and eerie at the same time.
I wonder if the others are experiencing nightmares or seeing anything.
Nathan chose a spot by the large windows, the moonlight casting a soft, silvery glow across all the furniture. He settled into an armchair, drawing his knees up to his chest, and wrapped his arms around them. From this vantage point, he could see the campus grounds, the moon casting long, slender shadows across the manicured lawns and winding pathways. The sight was calming, a gentle reminder of the world outside his nightmares, a world that continued to spin on, oblivious of the confusion within him.
I wish I could talk to you, Dad. I'm scared. I'm so scared. I don't understand what's happening to me. I miss you and Mom. Everything is spiraling and I can't make sense of any of it.
The absence of his father hit him harder in the quiet of the common room. Tears rolled down his face as memories of his parents, so violently taken from him, flooded in, intensifying his sense of loss. Each silent moment seemed to echo with the void they left behind, a void filled with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. As the initial panic slightly eased, giving way to a numb vigilance, Nathan clung to a fleeting sense of security. Yet even in this brief intermission from the darkness that haunted his dreams, the sorrow of missing his dad, his rock during such strife, was overwhelming. It was in these moments, alone and vulnerable, that the full scale of his fear and loss truly struck, leaving him longing not just for safety, but for the comfort that had once been his father's presence. As he watched the night slowly give way to the first hints of dawn, Nathan knew this was only temporary. The questions that plagued him, the shadows that seemed to stalk him, they weren't confined to his dreams or his room. They were a part of him now, an unwelcome companion on a journey he was only just beginning to understand. He knew he couldn't avoid them forever. Soon, he would have to face whatever truth lay hidden in the darkness. But for now, he would wait until the sun was fully up, drawing strength from the promise of a new day, a new beginning, and perhaps, eventually, some much-needed answers. As the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains, Elijah felt a surge of relief flood over him. It was finally morning. The night's terrors could be shelved, at least for now. He got up, determined to shake off the remnants of his nightmare. He headed for the showers and quickly got dressed. The thought of seeing Nathan and sharing what had happened was a beacon of hope, a chance to make sense of the chaos that had invaded his life. Nathan, meanwhile, had spent the remainder of the night in the common room, the first streaks of daylight bringing him a semblance of peace. He heard the wandering of students as the campus began to come to life. With a deep breath, he decided it was time to face the day, heading back to his room to prepare for what lay ahead. He needed to share the previous night's horrors with Elijah. The cafeteria was a hive of activity by the time Elijah and Nathan arrived. The buzz of conversations and the clatter of trays created a lively backdrop to their somber moods. The warmth of the Atlanta sun filled the room with a gentle light, trying its best to lift the shadows that lingered around them. Nathan's eyes, usually vibrant, were clouded with the remnants of his night's ordeal, a mirror to Elijah's own unease. Seated across from each other, the usual playful joking between the two friends was notably absent, replaced by a heavy silence. Elijah's unease was visible. The unrest of his dreams had left him restless, a far cry from his normal, composed self. As the aroma of breakfast wafted through the air, Elijah found himself with little appetite, his fork idly pushing the eggs around his plate. With furrowed brows, his mind wandered through the labyrinth of haunting nightmares that had plagued his sleep.
Hey, Eli, you good? You're murdering those eggs all over again with that fork.
Elijah blinked, snapping out of his daydream. He forced himself to focus on the present moment.
No, not really. Remember last night when I said I had a bad feeling something was going to happen? I didn't know what. I just knew it was something.
Yeah, I remember. After everything that's happened, how could I forget?
Well, something definitely happened. I had this nightmare that was disturbing and terrifying to say the least. There was something, I don't know, unnatural about it.
Nathan shifted in his seat as the hairs on the back of his neck stood up.
It's almost as if the nightmare was trying to tell me something.
What was the nightmare about?
Where do I even begin? It all started in this completely horrible place, like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. I was all alone until I came face to face with an older version of myself, which was beyond weird. He looked like me, but not really, if that makes sense. There was something different about him, as if he went through a lot of pain and struggle. Then, out of the shadows, this dark, evil figure appeared, demanding that I kneel before him. The scariest part was his threat. If I refused to kneel, I'd die. Again.
Nathan's heart skipped a beat at Elijah's words, his own nightmares suddenly feeling more tangible.
Die again? Wait, when did you die the first time?
Exactly. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
A chill ran down Nathan's spine, fear creeping up on him once more as he turned to gaze out the window.
Did anything weird happen to you last night?
Nathan paused, his heart pounding.
Nate, what happened?
I, had a nightmare as well. And after I woke up, I saw something, or someone in my room.
Was it the same figure with the red eyes?
No. It was me. Or at least that's what he told me.
You? I don't understand. You mean like an older version of you, like in my nightmare?
No, I don't think so. I couldn't actually see his face. He just told me that he was me.
This is insane. And your nightmare? What was it about?
Nathan's breath caught in his throat as he recalled his own nightmare. He shook it off and took a deep breath before describing the horrors that plagued his sleep.
It started off with me standing in this dark and creepy field all alone. Everything is dead. The trees, flowers, grass, all of it. And I'm surrounded by this sinister darkness that feels like it wants to swallow me whole. I remember I started walking through the field, and then I came across this horrible-looking dead tree that was completely black. And hanging from the tree was me. Or at least the dead body that looked like me with a noose tightly around my neck.
Nathan shuddered at the thought.
I was dead, but my eyes were wide open.
Elijah's eyes widened in horror as he listened to his friend's account.
There's more. As I'm standing there completely freaked out, looking at my dead body limply hanging from the tree, the ground suddenly ruptures into jagged cracks like scars on the earth. From inside the cracks, these monstrous, grotesque figures with red eyes and reptilian skin start crawling out.
Fear gripped Elijah's heart as his friend recounted his nightmare. Nathan looked around the cafeteria, making sure no one was in earshot range. He leaned in towards Elijah.
Somehow, I knew they had been summoned from the depths of hell. Those demons started to swarm around my lifeless body, letting out this horrible, cringy cry that echoed through the air. It makes my skin crawl thinking about it. Then, with a terrifying tug, they pulled my body down from the hanging tree and began dragging it into the depths from where they came.
Nathan paused to compose himself, rubbing the back of his neck as he shook his leg nervously.
The worst part is that I felt like I deserved it, like I was meant to endure this nightmarish punishment.
That's ridiculous. You don't deserve any of that. Neither of us does. You're the kindest, most loyal person I know, Nate.
That sounds more like you, Eli.
Elijah grinned at his friend.
How about we just say it's the both of us?
Nathan offered his friend a shaky smile, then quickly looked down at his hands, trying to hide the fear in his eyes.
It's just, they were cheering, Eli.
Who was cheering?
The demons, as they were dragging my body down with them. They were cheering and praising me as if I were a hero or something.
A hero?
Yeah, a hero. That can't be good, right? What could I have possibly done to earn the praises from freaking demons?
I don't know what these nightmares mean, but I do know that we are not the people in our dreams. We're Nate and Eli, two best friends who are in way over our heads right now. We need to check and see if Freya, Milo, and Adrian have been having nightmares or strange sightings as well.
Elijah exuded a sense of reason and calmness. His presence alone seemed to offer reassurance, as if he held the key to understanding the mysteries that enveloped them all. Nathan nodded his head in agreement.
Anywho, on a lighter note, Freya's kinda hot, don't you think?
Elijah shrugged, concealing his true feelings about her.
Slick subject change there. But, I mean, she's cool, I guess.
Elijah silently pondered to himself.
I wonder if I should tell him that I like her too, or that it feels like she and I have met before.
Elijah wasn't sure why he hesitated to share his feelings with Nathan, considering they had been best friends forever and shared practically everything. Maybe it was because he knew Nathan liked her, so he was giving him space to explore those feelings. Or perhaps it was because he felt a sense of familiarity and comfort when he saw Freya walking into the classroom the other day. It's as if he somehow already knows her, as strange as that may be. He just couldn't pinpoint from where.
Dude, that's your response? Well, if you aren't interested, you won't mind if I get to know her a little better then, right?
Bro, you talk to a new girl or guy almost every other week. I've lost track of who's caught your eye. And to answer your question, no, I don't care who you talk to because we have bigger things to worry about right now, like figuring out why we're having these nightmares.
As the weight of Elijah's words settled between them, it became increasingly evident that whatever was happening was far beyond their current comprehension. Nathan looked off into the distance again, his smile fading away into a look of worry. His thoughts began swirling. He could feel the fear beginning to rise.
I'm scared, Eli.
So am I. But no matter what, we've got each other.
Nathan managed a small smile as he looked at his friend.
Always. Until the day we die.
What does Nathan's nightmare signify? Who was the dark figure that declared itself as him? So many questions remain unanswered, each one layered with a deeper mystery than the last. Join us next week on Fate's Guardians for Episode 5, as our heroes delve deeper into the shadows that have infiltrated their dreams. As the boundaries between reality and nightmare blur, they must confront the spectral echoes of their past lives and uncover the ominous links to their present. Don't miss the next revealing episode of Fate's Guardians. Subscribe now and leave a review if the mystery has captured your imagination. Remember, in the world of Fate's Guardians, the line between nightmares and waking fears is thinner than ever. Don't let the darkness close in unnoticed. The next revelation is just a dream away.